This is probably the best episode of the second season of The Next Generation. Loud as a whisper, Riva, one of the greatest peace negotiators of the galaxy, is deaf. Diana Muldaur is always a guest star, not a regular, so minus the first point. Minus 1 point for a teenager flying the ship. I know he's a genius and taking college credits when we aren't looking, but he's still not an official pilot. Neither Picard or Riker look directly at the hologram, so minus 1 point. Riker says the Lima Sierra system is out in left field. Actually, it's foreshadowing, which we'll see later. When Data takes over the bridge, you'll see an extra always crosses right before they go through the turbolift. Riker tells Picard to be careful on the surface, while Picard says, I always use protection. Minus 1 point for a single set of doors and no gap in the floor for a fake turbolift. Riker says it's not their job to police the galaxies. Obviously, he's never seen a Star Trek episode. Deanna and Worf get into a pre-lovers quarrel. Just how old is Riva? The treaty between the Federation and Klingons was decades ago. Worf says, I number 1. And minus 1 point here since it seems they haven't made any real communications with the surface. Riker almost does the Picard maneuver. Picard lets his mom know he made it to the playground. Riva likes to make dramatic entrances. All three of them are thinking, uh-oh, that woman in the middle is married to Q. Minus 1 point for somebody's arm in the corner. Minus 1 point for opening credits 6 minutes into the show. And how did they not know a famous Peacemaker was deaf? It is in their job description to find these things out for diplomatic missions, so minus 1 point. Riva is a diplomat and a bit of a player. Now Picard, Deanna, and Worf are Riva's chorus. That was a quick change. Worf spouts Klingon poetry. He is the dreamer, the lover, and the warrior. Now the woman says she is the one that binds them all together. Isn't this guy her husband, and this guy here her son? Picard breaks protocol and is immediately accused of being the second baseman. If they researched Riva like they were supposed to, he'd never have to apologize. It would be interesting to learn more on the backstory of the chorus, but it's not a part of the show. Aww. Minus 1 point for a member of the film crew getting in the picture again. Riva's thinking like a dirty old man, and Deanna's thinking, oh great, am I going to have to put out on this episode? Star Trek cheats here. They beam 7 up to a transporter pad designed for 6 and don't tell you how they do it, so minus 1 point. Wesley says, I number 2. Wesley has less than 5 lines, so minus 1 point. Commander Riker is correct. They should have met in the lounge first before going straight to the bridge, minus 1 point. Riker's thinking, this better not be how he said hi to Deanna. You can see in Deanna's face, she knows he's going to ask her about that later. Geordi and Riva really hit it off because the visor and the chorus have quite similar functions. Minus 1 point for black paper on the back panel. Riva tells Geordi he's special in his own way. That's going to affect the next scene with him and Dr. Pulaski. Geordi is now so excited he offers the hospitality of his vessel. Riva asks if Counselor Troi will escort him, and she's thinking, oh god, we haven't even been on our 3rd date yet. Then Riker asks the remaining 2, is he here to negotiate peace or get laid? Deanna's like, wow, he really lays it on thick. Riva invites her to dinner. Deanna asks if the interpreter is coming along, which he responds, you mean you can't tell? And Deanna says, well, it looks like I'll be having a threesome tonight. Data apologizes for his Worf joke. The briefing about the planet is massively short. Riva says it doesn't matter why they're fighting. Then Riker says, you mean we did all that research for nothing, or are you just in a hurry to get back to my ex-girlfriend? Riva says, we know that's not the case. The second baseman has changed. What is the new piece of the puzzle? And this is personal, and now they want to talk peace. Picard asks, are you saying you solve all war conflicts with baseball metaphors? And Riva says, to this date, I have never failed. The meeting is adjourned, and even Picard and Data look surprised. Riker says we'll know soon enough if he can deliver. He's still thinking about Riva's dinner date with Deanna. How did they get away with saying phrases like this in 1980s TV? Riva is teaching Deanna to communicate using sign language. This is foreshadowing. In this case, it is American Sign Language. Howie Seago is naturally deaf. It would be interesting to know how the directors made the show with him on the set. Current day lasers would never make good weapons, so sometime in the future they must get a good upgrade. Riva uses his magic negotiating skills to get them to call a ceasefire. Riva chooses a site that's only accessible by foot, or transporter. Minus 1 point for the wind affecting transporting people, and minus 1 point since Worf didn't glitter in, he just appeared. Why do they always transport right next to a cliff? That's not very wise. -1 point for not asking the emissaries to disarm. That's going to cause a lot of problems soon. The second baseman still once swore, Worf is much quicker and would have stunned him, but it wasn't in the script, so -1 point. And goodbye to the chorus. The second baseman is shot by his own comrade. How did the transporter operator know only 3 were left? So -1 point. And these poor 3 are like, okay, now what? Picard and Riva have a male bonding moment. Deanna's like, wow, he changed teams real quick. Picard should know deaf people use sign language. How did they forget this in 300 years? So -1 point. Deanna says I number 2. Picard sings his favorite High School Musical song. Riva is not impressed. -1 point for Captain's Log talking down to the audience like we forgot everything during the commercials. While Data learned sign language, we learned no one in the Federation knows about it. Isn't it also their job to study early developing cultures? -1 point for no one on a ship of 1,000 knowing sign language. Riva just lost his chorus, which is like having your friends and your ears ripped right out of you. But no one on the ship, including the counselor, considers he needs grief counseling, so -1 point. Data learned the ancient art of sign language that no human on the ship knows. I have this muted, but Data does say the word death before Riva signs it, so -1 point. Also, the stars are moving behind Riva, but not behind Captain Picard, so -1 more point. I'm not surprised Riva is upset. His chorus was killed right in front of them, and all they want to do is continue negotiations. Shout out to LeVar Burton wearing blind contact lenses. Here, Dr. Pulaski offers to give Geordi artificial eyes. Is this foreshadowing that the show is going to do away with the visor in future seasons? Or does Geordi turn her down since a little bit earlier, Riva called him unique? We never really find out. Kate then says she's only had sex twice, once with the third baseman and once with Riker's dad. She offers Geordi to be bachelor number 3, but if he turns her down, there's no going back. Geordi says, I'll get back to you on this one. She's like, rats, I thought I was going to get late tonight. Was Deanna actually going to attempt negotiations, or is she just needling Riva to go back down to the planet? As usual in Star Trek, Deanna does not follow the teachings of Yoda. This is a good time for a "that's what she said" comment. Deanna saves the day and gives Riva a new plan. Did Chief O'Brien have any speaking parts in this show? Riker and Worf beam down with holstered phasers, but appear with them in their hands, so -1 point. -1 point for Deanna not telling the first officer of the ship what they're going to do before they beam down. Riva's plan is unique and it should work. I would normally take a point for him being left alone in the middle of a war zone like this, but him being left alone represents his lost chorus. Now getting back to the Lima Sierra system, the 4th planet with the awkward orbit is Riva, while the 3 planets with stable orbits represent his chorus. This is the last episode with a hologram on the table, and the first where the teaser foreshadows the rest of the show. And the last point is lost because the buzzing sound the hologram makes stops when Picard says thank you to Deanna. And shout out to Marina Sirtis for taking the lead for this episode. So, who was the chorus? John Robert Garrett recently left us. Chip Heller has 55 screen credits, including Babylon 5, V, and the Dukes of Hazzard. This is Richard Lavin's second and final Trek appearance. Leo Damian was the Warrior. Randy Oglesby was the Scholar with 116 screen credits. He will be back on Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. Marnie Mosimer really is married to John Delancey. She was also on Frasier, Ally McNeil, and What Women Want. And Howie Segal played Riva, who is naturally born deaf. He created the Emmy Award-winning TV show Rainbow's End for deaf children. Loud as a Whisper, probably the best Season 2 episode and a top show for the entire series, gets a score of 73%. Thanks for viewing. Be sure to leave comments below, click that like button, the share button, that subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon.